Welcome to the Garmavtar Show. In today's episode, I have with me Formula E world champion Lucas Di Grassi, who is the most successful Brazilian driver of the decade, collecting victories, titles, and international public recognition. He is also the biggest name in the history of the Formula E World Championship, adding a title, 2 runners-up, and 2 third places, in addition to being the record holder for 32 podiums. In 2015, he was named the best endurance driver and also the best Formula E competitor in the world. Formula E world champion in 2017. Lucas is the main driver in the history of this category. He was also the best in the world in Formula 3 in 2005, runner-up in the World Endurance Championship in 2016, and the best Brazilian in the 24 Hours of Le Mans at all times, with 3 podium finishes. From 2005 to 2011, Lucas was involved in Formula One in several ways, either as an official driver for Virgin Racing, a test driver for Renault and Pirelli, or a reserve driver for Renault. Currently, he competes in the FIA Formula E World Championship for Mahindra Racing. Thanks for joining me, Lucas. Such a pleasure to have you on my show.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for reaching out. And you do make me look very old when you say all of this stuff. And so thank you very much for the introduction. My career has been very, very long, and I love what I do. So very happy to speak about it.
Please tell us a bit about your journey and how you got into motorsports.
So I was born in Brazil, and growing up, I loved racing. I'm a very competitive guy, so I was competing all the time in different sports, but in racing, it was the easiest one for me to succeed. And then, of course, because of that, my love for the sport grew and grew, and then I got addicted of winning races, and I've been doing that since I'm 7 years old, so a long time. And I did all the way to Formula One, then I did endurance racing, then Formula E, and among other stuff that I did. A few races here and there, but I had the chance of having then at least 20 years as a professional racing driver.
Fabulous. So what have been your learnings from the racetrack?
There is a lot of learning, of course, on the racing itself, on how you, on the technique, on the sporting side, on the mental side, physical. But there is a lot of knowledge that you acquire during all those years in racing that actually you could use in companies, in startups, in technology, in understanding the world, understanding engineering. So racing is a sport which is very complex because the technology is so embedded into the sport. It's not like football that, okay, you play well and there is like the lines and the ball and kind of you go. No, racing, you have the tire, how you produce the tire, you have the engine, you have the motor, you have the aerodynamics, you have the logistics, you have the engineering, you have the strategy. It's extremely complex the way it operates. So you end up with a very good opportunity if you want to learn on how to in all these topics. And and I love engineering, so I'm very fortunate to be doing what I like with the time for so many years.
That's fabulous. But what, according to you, is the right mindset one ought to have in order to succeed in any career or sport?
That's a good question. I follow very closely the Stoic method, or the Stoic philosophy of living, which is basically you have to focus your energy on yourself and what you can control. So by focusing on what you can control, it reduces a lot the anxiety, the pressure, and actually instead of trying to focus on the result and other stuff that is not under your control, for example, how well your competitors train, you can control this. How well is the weather going to be at your favor or not? You can control that. So why just bother about it? Why don't you just focus on how to get better in every condition, how to get better methodology, better strategy, better people around you. So focus on what you can control, and try to put 100% of your effort when you're doing trying to improve, and you will succeed in what you're trying to achieve.
Wow, I mean that's very, very valuable, kind of advice that you just mentioned, and this thought process and this mindset. I think it's so important to to focus at the task at hand and not think about the outcome. So, if you could meet your younger self, who is striving to be where you are today, what is that one piece of advice that you would like to give to him?
This actually,
Okay.
because when I was younger, I had the understanding that I needed to be disciplined, I needed to be hungry to win, and everything else. But when you're young, you have such an open future in front of you that it's very hard not to think about what it would be if I win that or if I do this, and get worried about the result, get nervous, and end up not doing the right thing. So one piece of advice would have been just like, focus on what you can improve, where you can improve, understand how you can improve those areas, and focus on your performance and not the outcome, not the result. And that's the same piece of advice I would give myself 20 years ago, and it's something that I learned in a very hard way over these 20 years of experience in a sport.
Amazing. So, what's a message to the upcoming young athletes?
So for especially motorsport, you need to surround yourself with the right people. If you don't have the right people, very hard for you to succeed. Motorsport is a team sport. You need to be with the right team, with the right people around you, and so that's kind of my advice to the younger generation that will come along.
Thank you so much. That's really, actually, it makes sense to have, because company really matters, and how much there's so much of influence of the company around us. So definitely. Okay, let's come to the rapid fire questions. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so how do you derive your regular dose of motivation?
So I focus on the short term, with my strategy being on the long term. So what I can do today, that I can improve myself as a person, as a professional, as a father, today. But this is how can I get it better today, knowing that my road is leading me in the long term to where I want to achieve. So, for example, if you want to be very strong, you want to be very muscular. Okay, that's the strategy. And so, what is the short-term achievement? Is actually going to the gym today. If you don't go to the gym today, you're not going to be muscular in 1 year. So the strategy is very clear where I want to achieve, and then what I need to do today. And then you go to the gym, you don't see any progress. You go to the gym tomorrow, you don't see any progress. You go to the gym 2 days after, you see zero progress. But it's not because you're seeing zero progress that the progress is not there. If you do everything right, if you eat right, if you sleep right, and you're doing the right things based on your vision of long term, even if in the middle of the things you don't get the right thing, you will arrive to the right destination in the future. And that's kind of where I get my motivation to work every day.
That's so amazing. I was reading this book, in fact, about atomic habits, where it was mentioned that even what we do every day, even 1% of improvement that happens every day, that accumulates and kind of give big results in the future. So it's important to have these habits, like little improvements. 1% also makes so much of sense.
1% every day means that in 365 days you are 36 times better.
Absolutely.
So if you have a bank account, you have $100, and it gets 1% up every day. So tomorrow is 101, then it's 1% of 101, it will become 101.2, 102.2, and the compound interest of
Yeah,
this effect will give you $36,000 by the end of the year. So it's the same with you. If you manage to improve in any area a little bit every day, it makes a huge difference in a lifetime.
that's so well said, actually. Okay, what's the best advice that you've ever got?
It's hard to pinpoint one, but probably was from my father. When I was young, he said, look, if you are ever in doubt about any process or any problem, or try to reason what's the very root cause, or what are the basic principles of that problem, of that situation. Try to understand from a, let's say, physics perspective of actually what is leading to that, or how that technology or how that technique needs to be applied, based on the very essence. So how can you go down to the very essence when you cannot go a step further? You cannot simplify it anymore. And then by understand how the principles of that thing happen, you can actually understand on how to rebuild it, or how to do it in a different way that optimizes the outcome for you. Just don't try to take something that already exists and try to modulate to what you need. If you understand the whole process, you make sure that the end product will be a much better one that you try to adapt. Almost like if you want to, let's say you have a house and you want to refurbish the house. You can refurbish as much as you want. It will never go to the exact same format as if you say, no, I know how the house is built. I'm going to destroy that house and build one from scratch. It will be much better than just keeping adding refurbishment into an old house. Let's put it this way.
That's a very powerful advice, actually. So who's your role model?
I don't have a role model. I don't have an idol. I admire people, admire their work, I admire their commitment. My father being one, but also some racing drivers like Ayrton Senna, some businessmen like Elon Musk. Probably the biggest, the one I admire the most is probably Leonardo da Vinci. Actually, my son is called Leonardo because of Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, wow. And why specifically, anything specific about Leonardo da Vinci that you really appreciate?
Yeah, so Leonardo da Vinci lived in the 500 years ago, and he was probably the single most, himself as one individual, I think probably over a century, he produced more relevant work for humankind than the rest of the world combined. He painted the Mona Lisa, he had this interest on human biology, he invented the helicopter, the tank, he was the teacher of Michelangelo, of Raphael back then. He did so much stuff over his lifetime that it's very impressive that a human being can be with such a privileged mind as he had back then. That's what admires
me. Fabulous. Okay, what's your best racing memory?
I have many racing memories. Probably the biggest one was winning the championship in Canada, 2017 was amazing. But also winning the Mexico last 10 meters was also very cool. I had so many successful races that is very hard to pinpoint one, but those two are probably one of the top.
Great. So, what's the best thing about racing?
I would say in general, not only looking at the sporting in a very specific, my subjective personal view of racing, think as a broad sport. It's the only sport that at the same time you create entertainment, you also develop technologies that will make a difference in people's lives, or hundreds of thousands, millions of people's lives. Like, for example, the seat belt was invented in racing, the disc brakes, the turbocharged, the mirrors, the now electric cars are developing based on what we are developing on the racetrack. So a lot of the technologies we developed in racing, they made the cars better, they made the cars safer, they saved a lot of people's lives. So it is a very interesting sport that develops technology in a way that no other sport does.
No, absolutely. Very, very well said. Okay, so what's your hidden talent?
One hidden talent.
Yeah.
I am a very, I like engineering a lot. I like physics a lot, and I read a lot of books. So probably that's something that is not very common to a racing driver.
Okay.
But actually, I'm also a very good shooter, so I shoot very well.
Oh, wow.
So
awesome.
Also.
Okay, your favorite supercar?
Of all times, I would say probably the Ferrari F40.
Okay. Most embarrassing moment
of my life?
Yeah, maybe live or racing, whatever.
In racing, probably when I crashed the car on my way to the grid in F1 in Japan.
Okay.
There was a reason for it. It was not 100% my fault, but it was very embarrassing.
Oh, I can understand. Okay, proudest accomplishment so far?
My kids.
Awesome. That's so lovely. Okay, and with this, we come to the end of the show. Thank you, Lucas, for joining me in this absolutely amazing
session. Thank you very
session.
much. I really appreciate everybody that watched us and listened to us. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much, Garima. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening to today's episode with your host, Garima Aftar. See you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.